Hi guys, so today I'm going to install the Hydor Seltz D 1600 gallon per hour return pump on my 93 gallon cube. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about it and talk about different installation options and what I did and what I plan to do in the future, and show you what it's all about. So we have the 1600 gallon per hour return pump. This base plate comes off. There's this pre-filter that comes off also. There's a little clip on it. And this base screws off also. Now this pump can be installed internally and externally. So if you have a sump like I do, I'm going to be putting it in the sump. You can also have it outside the sump and plumb it into your sump, into your sump and return. So there's a few different ways to utilize this pump. The pump comes with a few different barb connections. There's 3/4, 1 inch, and 1 1/4. For me, I'm going to be using the 1 inch barb fitting on top, and this ring nut comes off. And I would put that right on there and tighten that ring nut down without cross threading it. All right. So you would use the barb fitting if you're going to be using some sort of flex hose when installing this pump. I am going to be using silicone, 1 inch silicone tubing to install it on my 93 gallon. You can also use braided vinyl tubing. I noticed that the braided vinyl tubing is a little bit more difficult to work with. It's not as forgiving. You can't really bend it that well unless you heat it up, and even that isn't that great. So I fought with the vinyl tubing. I tried, non-braided and braided, and I just couldn't make it work in my sump, at least easily. I'm sure if I really spent some time on it, I could have heated it up and got it to bend correctly, but I just didn't have the time to mess with it. I originally planned on hard plumbing it, but that is not going to work either. There's just not enough room in the sump to allow that. So I ordered some 1 inch silicone tubing from BRS, and I'm going to use that to install the pump. So what you would basically do is slide your silicone or vinyl tubing on top, and then connect it to your other barb fitting or whatever other fitting you're going to be using to connect to your bulkhead or to your return piping going to up to your display, and connect it, and that's really it. So since I'm going to be putting in the pump, I'm going to put this back plate back on and the filter. And let's see what else. Oh, so if you were going to hard plumb it, you basically would stick your piece of hard plumbing. This is 1 inch rigid Schedule 40 PVC. Slide that in there, tighten down the ring nut, and fit it in your sump and attach it to your return or bulkhead return to connect it to your system. So once you get it in your sump, you're going to connect the controller. All right, and then you would use the nut and thread the connectors together or tighten them together, and then plug your pump in. The controller has 6 different modes. I should say 6 different flow modes, and you can use the plus and minus buttons to change them. This pause button is used for feed mode. It will stop the pump for 5 minutes so you can do your feeding, and then it will kick back on. Okay, so the first thing you want to do before you go ahead and install your pump is actually put the pump in the sump and figure out how long your hose needs to be to connect your pump to your return line. So I went ahead and test fitted my pump in there. It's a little tight. My pump is basically going to be right up against the back of the sump until I go ahead and kind of semi-hard plumb it. My plan is to come out of the bottom of the bulkhead in 45 over towards the front, and then come out of the top of the pump in 45 towards the back of the sump, and then just put a piece of tubing in between so that I can get it installed correctly. But for now, I'm just going to install it with some silicone tubing. So I went ahead and measured and cut my silicone tubing, as you can see, and I'm just going to put it on the pump itself. And now I'm going to go over to the sump and attach it to my return line. Alright, so here we are in the sump area of my 93 gallon. This is my Synergy Reef System CL34 sump. So let's see if I can install this while filming. It's pretty tight under here, so I'm not too confident, but we'll see what happens. So I have the hose connected to the bottom of the pump, and like I said, I have to install this pump backwards actually on mine because I don't have enough room to be able to install it forward without kinking the hose or pipe or whatever. So I'm gonna get it in there as close as possible and connect the hose like so. Alright, it just slides right on there. And that's the beauty of using that silicone tubing. It is very easy to work with, but it's also very easy to kink it, so you have to be careful. So it's pretty much a straight shot from my bulkhead, my return bulkhead, down into the pump. So that's pretty much it. I am going to put a gator clamp on the return bulkhead, just for a little added security. It's probably a little overkill. You don't typically need to add these when you're using a barb fitting, but I'm just going to add it in there just for a little added security so it doesn't pop off or anything. Okay, like I said, this is not the easiest part because there's not a whole lot of room under here, but we'll get it. All right, got that clamped down. All right, so now that we got the return pump installed, we're going to go ahead and connect the pump to the controller and turn it on and see what happens. All right, so now we have the pump powered up. I plugged it in. The controller is on, and so there are these plus and minus buttons to control the flow on the pump. I currently have it on a number 3 flow, and you can turn it down or turn it back up. Like I said, there's this pause button which will put the pump in feed mode, and that will stop the pump for 5 minutes. So if I were to press that, light comes on, it says 5 minutes flashing, pump shuts off, and you can start feeding. My system has check valves on it, so the check valve's closed, and the water in the overflow is draining back into the sump. And if you want to take it off of feed mode, you can just press the pause button again, and it will turn the system back on, or turn the pump back on. And that's pretty much it for the Hydor Seltz D 1600 gallon per hour return pump. If you guys have any questions, be sure to put it in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video.